My first video that I'm making on this channel. I have decided that I'm going to start making some videos because I've been canning and bottling and dehydrating a lot of food recently, and I decided why not start recording it and making videos and memories and teaching you guys. So today in this video I thought we would make bread and butter pickles. If I'm a little awkward at some point, just bear with me because this is the first video that I'm gonna record. So I might lose my train of thought a little bit. Okay, so starting, we're gonna need 3 pounds of cucumbers, which I have down here, and 1 pound of onions. So what you want to do very first is you want to wash your cucumbers really well because we're not peeling them, we're just going to be slicing them with the skin still on them. I use this nifty little vegetable scrubber right here that I got just at a dollar store. Works really well. So with the cucumbers, you don't want to keep the end part, so you'll start just by cutting the end off and discarding those. And then you'll take the cucumber and just slice thin slices. And then make sure you have a really big bowl because all of the cucumbers and all of the onions have to go into the same bowl. Plus you have to put water and ice on top of it once you're done. So once you get all of your cucumbers sliced up, then we'll be moving on to the onions. And a cool little tip that I learned a couple years ago is if you don't want the fumes or whatever to burn your eyes, run them under cold water, and that really helps. So I do that every time now. Every time I mess with an onion. So you want to cut the onions in thin slices. About like slices like this. Okay, once you got all of your onions and your cucumbers cut up, the next step you're going to do is put some canning or pickling salt and 1/4 of a cup and sprinkle it all over this. So you take your pickling salt, measure out 1/4 of a cup and sprinkle it on it. Then you're going to want to take your ice. It'd help if you open the bag. Put some ice on it, and then take some cold water and also add that. And then what you're going to want to do is you let this mixture sit in the fridge for 3 hours, or you can leave it in there overnight and start the next steps to actually canning or bottling it the next morning, which is what I'm going to do. When you put it in the fridge, make sure you cover it. I will see you guys all tomorrow. to finish the rest of this process. Hey guys, it's the next morning. The bread and butter pickles have been sitting in the fridge overnight, and so now we're gonna get ready we're preparing the canning equipment. So what you want to do first is you get your hot water bath, and you want to take your jars. I'm doing just little pints. I'm doing a batch that will make 7 pints. So you want to wash them all with hot soapy water, which I've already done previous to this step. Then you just stick them around the edge of your hot water bath, and I will show you that in a minute. So I'm just grabbing each one. Okay, so this is what it will look like in there. You do not want them to be touching. Before you put your jars in, you want to make sure there's this little metal piece on the bottom so that the jars do not touch the very bottom of the hot water bath, or else there's a good chance that your jars will break. So once you get all of the jars in there, then you want to fill up the hot water bath with water so that it covers the jars about an inch or 2 above the jars, and then you want to bring it to a boil and boil the jars for 10 minutes to sterilize them. The timer just went off, so now I'm getting ready to take the bottles out so that we can fill them up with the cucumber and onion mix and get them ready to go in the canner. So I'm just using the jar lifter, and I'm grabbing each jar and tipping it to dump out the water. And then I'm just carrying it over here and setting it on the counter. This next step, we're going to be making the actual bread and butter pickles. So what you're gonna need is a fairly large pot. You're gonna need some measuring tools. You're gonna want your bubble popper and your funnel and the seasonings that I'll get into later, your jars, and your sugar and apple cider vinegar. Right now I'm going to be adding everything into this pot besides the cucumbers and the onions. You put those in after you mix in all the other ingredients and simmer it on the stove. Bring it to a boil on the stove. So we'll start out, if you see me glancing over here, it's because I have a paper with the correct measurements of everything that needs to go in here. So we'll start out with 1 cup of cane sugar. So this is a 1/2 cup. It's the only thing I had, so we'll put half. 1. 1.5. 2. 2.5. And 3. 3 cups of sugar, 1 tablespoon of mustard seed. So do 1 tablespoon of this. 1 teaspoon of celery seed, This is also a half teaspoon, so I'll do 2 of these. Half and 1. Next ingredient is 1 teaspoon of ground turmeric. This is what the celery seed looks like. You can see it. Next is a teaspoon of ground turmeric. And half a teaspoon of black peppercorn. Half teaspoon of these. And 3 cups of apple cider vinegar. So 3 of these. One. 2. So now we're going to just mix it all together. This is the lovely mixture. Smells fantastic. So now we're just going to put this on the stove and put it on medium heat. So we'll be bringing this to a low boil. So while we're waiting for this to boil, we can go ahead and rinse off the cucumbers and the onions. Okay, now that my mixture that was on the stove started boiling, now I'm going to add the cucumbers and the onions. Here is the cucumber mixture that I had sitting in the fridge overnight. So what you want to do with this is now we're going to rinse it in clean water. Just dump out the water that's already in it and rinse it off with clean water. Once this starts boiling, then we're going to add the cucumber and the onion mix. So we'll be adding that to the pan as soon as it starts boiling. Then once you add it and mix it all together, then you're going to want to bring it back to a boil. Okay, now that my mixture that was on the stove started boiling, now I'm going to add the cucumbers and the onions. Now we're just waiting for it to come back to a boil before we move on to the next step. Okay, now that all of the mixture is hot, we're going to use a ladle and we're going to scoop it up and put it use your funnel, put your funnel in the jar, and we're gonna just scoop it up and put it in there, and we're gonna leave 1/2 inch headspace. And you want to put it in the jar loosely. You can use your bubble popper to kind of just push it down in there a little bit. About 1/2 inch. And you just do that to every single jar. So we'll just set that one aside, move on to the next one.
If you found the one, you should never give her up. I think it's the way life changes when in love, yeah. I surround my soul with the positivity. That's why I don't worry about the things that I don't see, yeah. These days I don't worry about much. I think we should have some more fun. I still dream about the...
Once you got all of the jars filled with a 1/2 inch headspace, you want to look and turn each one around and check for air bubbles. And if there's an air bubble, you take this magnetic bubble popper and you'll just stick it down and get out the air bubbles. So I'm just going to quickly check, make sure there's no air bubbles in all of them. And this one has a little air bubble. And we got it. Oh, this one has one. And that's that step. Next, we're going to take these lids, just the lid part, not the rings, and you put them in a small saucepan with a little bit of water. And you're going to want to turn that on low heat so that they only simmer. You do not want them to boil, or else it will mess with the sill. While we're waiting for the lids to heat up, you want to get a clean wash rag and you get it wet and put your pointer finger in it like this, and you want to carefully clean around each rim. You want to make sure that they get really clean, because even something as simple as a little grain of salt can make it so they won't sill. So I usually go around once this way, and then I'll go back around again the other way on every single jar. Once you've cleaned off the lids really well, we're going to take our magnetic stick and you just get one of the lids out and you bring it over and just put it on there grab a ring and screw it on. You don't want to put it on too tight. So what I like to do is screw it on, screw it back a little bit, and if it has resistance, then that's good, and just screw it back tight a little bit. Now that I've got all of the lids and rings on the jars, we're going to put them one by one into the water bath canner using our jar lifter. Once you get all of the jars into the water bath canner, then you want to put the lid back on. Now we're going to turn the heat back up and bring it to a boil. As soon as it starts to boil, then we're going to put the process time as 10 minutes. So you'll cook them for 10 minutes and then you'll take off the lid for 5 minutes and then we'll get them out. Make sure when you put the jars in to be processed that the water line is at least 2 inches above them. Okay, the pickles have been processed for 10 minutes in the hot water bath, so now it's time to get them out. After the 10 minutes were up, I took off the lid and I let it sit for 5 more minutes to let the temperature kind of regulate. But now I'm going to get them out. Oh, that one just sealed. A very important note is you want to put them on a hard, flat surface, on a towel, and in an area that has no drafts. Oh, another one just sealed. Thank you guys all for watching. Please subscribe for more. Let me know down in the comments what you want to see next. Bye!